Welcome to episode 295 of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today talking about the Bears playoff hopes, scenarios, dreams, all that. I'm going to skip the recap. There's not much to recap besides the fact that we were pretty much almost tied at the half, but it was the worst team in the league. It was a real sloppy game on both sides, but we capitalized on mistakes, and that's what you're supposed to do when you play bad teams. So that's it. All right. But that puts us in a nice, interesting scenario. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the scenarios for week 17 and what the outcomes could be. Then I'll talk about the matchups and kind of what I would expect to happen and all that good stuff. So I know a lot of Bears fans, they think we could beat the Packers. The Packers are one of the best teams in the league. And so, hey, I'm not saying that we can't any given Sunday. I believe in that. But I know a lot of fans want to hear the positive. So we'll start off with the scenarios of us winning against Green Bay and what that could look like. But what I'll say is I'm not like a playoff expert, but going off the information that I've been given from the NFL and all the stats and stuff, I feel pretty confident this is what it is. As far as win-losses, ties, there could be some other funky stuff, but I feel confident that there's 16 scenarios we're looking at roughly. And so I'll kind of go through those and talk about what that means. But the overall picture is there's 6 teams. There's us in Green Bay. There's Seattle and New Orleans, and then there's the Rams and the Cardinals. And so those are all the teams that we'll be looking at next week. Now, we play the Packers, and then the Rams play the Cardinals. So those would be within the same game. And those will mean a lot, and I mean a lot for our playoff hopes. So there's a combination of what could happen between these 6 teams, and so that's what we'll be going through. So right now, Green Bay is in the lead for the first seed. If we were to beat them, that would open up a scenario where there might be a 3-way tie or something weird between Seattle, New Orleans, and Green Bay, because Seattle won their game against the Rams. So that puts the Rams lower, and then that puts Seattle in contention for that first seed. So the Packers have something to play for. I saw after last night, some people was like, oh, hopefully the rest of the start. No, they got something to play for because they could end up in the 3rd seed. There is a scenario where that happens. So they have a lot to play for. But let's go through these combinations. So the first thing, if we beat the Packers and Seattle and New Orleans both win their games and the Rams beat the Cardinals, then we would get in as the 7th seed. The Rams would still be the 6th seed. The Saints would be the 1st seed because they would win the tiebreaker against Seattle. Seattle would be the 2nd seed because they would win the tiebreaker against Green Bay. And then Green Bay would be the 3rd seed. And so as the 7th seed, we would play Seattle. So this is us beating Green Bay, the Saints, Seahawks, and the Rams all winning. That would be us playing Seattle. Now, the flip side of that is if we win, Saints win, Seahawks win, but the Cardinals win, if they beat the Rams, then we would move up to the 6th seed, and the Cardinals would be at the 7th seed. And in that situation, we would then play Green Bay because Green Bay would be the 3rd seed. So that means that there's that scenario where we could beat Green Bay at home and get in the playoffs and then have to turn around and go right back and play them again. So that scenario does exist out there. Now, all right, so the next scenario is where we win and the Saints win, Seattle loses, Rams win. In that case, we would be the 7th seed. Rams would be the 6th seed. New Orleans would be the 2nd seed because they would lose the tiebreaker to Green Bay. And so we would end up playing New Orleans. if Seattle loses and New Orleans wins and we win and the Rams win. And so the flip side of that is if we win, Saints win, and then Cardinals win, then we would move up to the 6th seed. Cardinals would be the 7th seed. And then we would end up playing Seattle, who would then be the 3rd seed. So Packers would still be the first round bye. Now, the next scenario is if we win, the Saints lose, Seahawks win, Rams win. Then if the Packers and the Saints win, if the Packers and the Saints lose, Seattle becomes the 1st seed. And then we would be the 7th seed. And then Green Bay would end up being the 2nd seed, and we would have to play Green Bay. So if Seattle wins, we win, and the Saints lose, then we would have to go back to Green Bay. Now, the flip side of that is if the Cardinals win, Seattle wins, we win, then Cardinals would be 7th seed, we would be 6th seed, and we would play the Saints, who would be the 2nd seed. Because in this scenario, we would play the Saints, who would be the 3rd seed. Because in this scenario, Seattle would be 1, Green Bay would be 2. And so that's how that would play out. And then the last two is if we win, Seattle loses, and New Orleans loses. If all the top seeds lose out and the Rams win, we would be in 7th seed. Rams would be in 6th seed, and we would play the Saints, who would then be the number 2 seed. And then if that happens, if they lose out but the Cardinals win, then we would be the 6th seed, and the Cardinals would be the 7th seed, and we would play Seattle. So just looking at this real quick, I didn't count this up prior. But yeah, I mean, 3 of these scenarios we play Seattle, 3 of them we play New Orleans, and 2 of them we play Green Bay. So it's pretty up in the air. Now, the flip side is if we lose. So if we lose, then Green Bay is the 1st seed, and New Orleans is the 2nd seed. Well, that's not true. There's a situation where they could be the 3rd seed. But if Green Bay beats us, they're the 1st seed, hands down. So the first scenario is if Green Bay beats us, Seattle wins, New Orleans wins, and the Rams win, we would still make the playoffs because the Cardinals lost. So we would make the playoffs as the 7th seed, and then we would have to play the Saints. The flip side of that is if the Cardinals win, then we're out. So then the next scenario is Green Bay wins, Saints win, Seattle loses, Rams win. Then it's the same scenario as above. We would play New Orleans because New Orleans would be the 2nd seed and we would be the 7th seed. If the flip side of that, if the Cardinals win, Saints win, Green Bay wins, then we're out. If Green Bay wins and the Seahawks win, the Saints lose and the Rams win, then we would make it in as the 7th seed and we would play Seattle, who would be the 2nd seed. Because if the Saints lose and the Seahawks win and the Green Bay wins, then New Orleans goes to the 3rd seed. So the flip side of that is if the Cardinals win, Green Bay wins, we're out. And then if Green Bay wins, Saints, Seahawks lose, and the Rams win, we would play New Orleans because New Orleans would be the 2nd seed and we would be the last. But if they all lose and the Cardinals win, we'd be out. So if any scenario where Green Bay and the Cardinals win, we'd be out. That's how that goes. All 4 of those scenarios is us being out. So if we lose to the Packers, which it's possible, 3 of those scenarios we play New Orleans. So what is looking like out of all of these odds is that we play New Orleans. That seems to be the most. If we're just looking at raw odds, that seems to be the most likely. There we go. Sorry, couldn't think of the word. So we would need some help, though. If we lose to the Packers, we would need some help from the Rams. And the Rams, obviously, they don't have much to play for except seeding. Because if they lose and we lose, they just go to the 7th seed. So it's not huge for them. But they probably, I'm sure, want to be in the 6th seed to play a different team. But here's the caveat. Here's the one catch-up. Is that Jared Goff dislocated his thumb, and there's concern he might have broke his thumb and might need surgery. Now, there's players, quarterbacks that have played with a broken thumb or whatever. Can't say that they're as effective, but some have done it and got through it, but that doesn't exactly mean that Jared Goff himself would be able to. And that, I mean, I don't know if a week off, even if he took this week off, if he would be ready for the playoffs. That would just be really interesting. And his backup has never played an NFL snap. So that's what we're looking at. So it is very possible the Cardinals could beat the Rams. And so in that scenario, if the Cardinals beat the Rams and we beat the Packers, then that's good, because in all of those scenarios, we move up to the 6th seed. And in that case, we would most likely play Seattle. Us going to the 6th seed, there's one scenario where we play the Saints, one where we play Green Bay, 2 where we play Seattle. So that's kind of what that's looking like. But it's a tall task to beat the Packers. And so let's talk about like the actual football of it all. So the first task is, can we beat the Packers? Now, we know what the Packers have done to us historically. We know what they did to us last time and beat the brakes off us. And they have been really hot. So to me, if any team, but for us specifically, the only way I see us beating Green Bay is that we would have to keep it close by half. That would be my main goal. If we're within one possession to either tie or take the lead by halftime, then I'm in a good spot, because then we could get the ball back, especially if we get the ball back. Then we could grind out the clock. If we're efficient and with our drive, and we end up scoring to either tie or take the lead, then we could grind out a good portion of the clock. And then Green Bay, if they take a good portion, then the third quarter is pretty much over. If they score quick, then we get the ball back again, where we can then grind out the third quarter at our pace. And so now you're setting up a scenario where you have a tied or close game in the fourth quarter, and that's when you really have your best shot to beat Aaron Rodgers. It's a game at that point, but that's when you have your best shot. Now, obviously, you would just like to blow them out, but we're talking about like realistic scenarios here. And so the thing with playing Green Bay is the only team that really got into Aaron was teams that like blitzed them hard and man coverage and all that. Now, he's good against the blitz, but if you're physical with the receivers at the line, or you got decent man coverage and there's pressure, then especially off the edge, then you're setting up a scenario where you could do pretty well against the Packers. But that's the opposite of the Bears. We're not built to blitz, and we're not built for man coverage. If we blitz, it's a zone blitz, and that's getting ate up. And if we go to man coverage, we don't have man corners. And so I'm not sure. Now, to me, I think Jalen, and I don't even know if Jalen will be back, but I think Jalen and Kyle are very physical. And honestly, Eddie Jackson is too. And he's quick. So if you put Eddie down in the slot, like if we had our starters, you put Buster, Eddie, Kyle, and Jalen, like press, and we blitz, I think you could do something, but it would be tough. That's just not how we usually play. And we're good in those first 5 yards, but what happens after those 5 yards? Especially if you don't get a good jam, then somebody's scoring. So it's tough. We're not really built to beat Green Bay like that. That offense, like Aaron Rodgers, what they want to do is they want to do a quick flare out. They want to do a quick, not smoke screen, but they want to do a quick noun route. They want to do quick stuff to Devontae Adams to really frustrate you. And then they want you to either rotate that coverage or start getting tight up on them. And once you get tight up, then they want to do a little hezzy slant so he could make something big over the middle. If you start playing hard inside, then they want to hezzy inside, go up for a little fade in between the safety. And so once you start focusing your coverage and your secondary gets on their heels, then they want to run the ball from the shotgun and get good yards up the middle. Then they want to get under center and do that play action boot that everybody's been doing. And by the way, it is weird to me, old classic play is just unstoppable right now in the NFL. I just don't get it. But anyway, so and then they want to get under center and get that going, and then set up a play action to start either do a tight end pop pass or do whatever they're going to do with the crosser. So it's tough, man. But the thing that you got to do is you got to stop their run right away. Like, they're going to pass early, but if you stop the run, if the run's not getting anything, then now they want to pass, but you would feel a lot better if Aaron Jones isn't a big factor, because now any team one-dimensional, you know what to focus on. But, you know, we play cover 3. We play cover 4, a little off coverage. So I can't imagine us playing cover 3, because if Jalen or Fuller are off the line like that, they're going to eat us alive with Devontae Adams. So that's what you got to do. Offensively, that's tough. It's tough watching Green Bay. They got a lot of talent. I mean, a lot of talent on defense. But the performance isn't always there. But still, it is tough to think about how to attack them. The real thing that you got to do is you have to secure Kenny Clark and run it up the middle. They don't have good linebackers. Preston and Zadarius, I always get this name mixed up. They really like to go off the edge. And if you invite them up the edge, they're going to go around the edge, and then you could go up the middle. So you could run a trap. You could run just inside zone with the backside pass setting. You could do a lot of different things. And then once you gut them up the middle, and then they want to, bring that safety down, be a little tighter, then that's when you could do pretty well. Now, I'm worried. I think if you get the run game going, you'll be fine. But Zadarius and Preston ain't no, punks on that edge. And so this idea of doing that play action boot all day, that's going to be tough. Because my thing is, if it's me, I mean, it depends on, you could name it anything, but I always call it punch. If you make a backside punch call where instead of backside pursuit, you just punch anything off the edge, then whenever they do that, you could just smack that quarterback in the mouth. Obviously, it's built where they could dump it off quick if there's pressure in their face, but I would do that every time. I'm not going to give you the intermediate route. I'm not going to give you any of that. I'm going to make you make a contested throw to the flat every single time you do that until you stop doing it. And they have the athletes with Preston and Zadarius to do that. So that worries me. But again, if you start going up the middle, or even if you just get the run game going in general, that's what makes that backside defender really spill really hard. And they want to, have that backside pursuit in case it bubbles and then they can't cut back. And you know what? Well, I'll take that risk. I'll take the risk of a running back getting a nice cutback lane in a run game than them running his boot on me all day. So that's just me. But obviously Jair is going to go with Allen Robinson. And we like to force it to Allen Robinson. And I think he can win some of those matchups, but Jair is a great corner. And so I don't like the idea of throwing at him all day. So, with their defense, they can be got. Can our offense get them? That's a huge question mark because we have relied on the same basic things and we've been doing it against really bad teams. And so if we could, the thing that you can't do, as I mentioned, the first goal is to keep it close at half. You can't get behind. So if Green Bay is scoring, we got to score. If Green Bay is moving the ball, we got to move the ball. Green Bay can't move the ball, and even if we stop them, get field goals or punt it, and then we go 3 and out, now they got good field position. We have to keep the field position even, and we have to keep the score close. So what we can't do is go out there and look bad early because Green Bay will get on top of us just like a Kansas City, and then it's over. That's when the snowball starts. So that's a lot about Green Bay. So, but I'm going to be honest with you. If we beat Green Bay and had to play them again, there is not many scenarios where I see us beating Green Bay twice in a row, the second one being in the playoffs at Green Bay. That is obviously it's possible, and if it happens, I'm be rooting for us. But the way we play and the way we built, I'm not sure. Now, the other game would be against New Orleans. Now, obviously, we know that we darn near had a win against them early in the season. But the Saints are very different than early in the season. They are rolling right now. They are very hot. That O-line, I forgot what happened with Pete, but even without Pete, they have good to great linemen everywhere. Pete is good. Cesar Ruiz is young. I think he's going to be great, but right now he's good. Eric McCoy, I think he's shown he was one of my favorite prospects at center. He's shown that he's very good. Ramczyk is great. Armstead's great. So they have a beast of offensive line, and the thing we don't do well is pass rush or create pressure. And so the thing that helps us is that Breeze can't really push it downfield. Breeze really keeps it underneath, and we don't know if they're going to have Mike Thomas. If they don't have Mike Thomas, that's a big thing. But even still, they got weapons. But Breeze doesn't like to push it downfield. Breeze wants to do everything underneath, and that's where we excel at. And I have to rewatch that game and rewatch my recap of it. But from what I understand is that's a good matchup for us because especially without Mike Thomas. Now, Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan, they could get downfield. But I'm not saying they can't. But that's more so off play action. When it's straight drop back pass and they want to go underneath. We like that. We like to rally to the ball, keep it short. The question in that game would be the run game, especially if Mike Thomas is out, is if we could stop the run game. Now, it's not super difficult to stop Alvin Kamara, and we did a good job of it the first time. He killed us on like an angle route or something. It was one pass play he killed us. And he's got that, and you got to be able to play him in the space. But as far as the run game, if you shut Kamara down early, they're not going to give it to Murray. They only really give it to Murray when Kamara's going, and then they start giving him some rest. But if Kamara not doing nothing, Murray not going to really come in, they could very much abandon the run. And then they'll mix in some Taysom Hill. So it's possible. The way we built is a much better matchup with the Saints than it is with the Packers defensively. Now, offensively, that's the question. They have a monster of a defense, and they've been playing well. Now, I will say that even though they've been a top-rated run defense all year, the last few games, like the Chiefs and the Vikings, now Vikings didn't go crazy on them, but a lot of people been getting yards on them. That's kind of the facts. They've been getting yards on them, and so the run game is there to be had. And I think Mustaford, Bars, Fetty at tackle is much more built to play with the big boys that they got, but it's far from a give me because they're pretty disciplined. And when we're running zone blocks, which is all we do, it's built off them not being disciplined. If people get out of their lanes, the cutback lanes open up, or if the linebackers get out of position, that opens up. And they're pretty disciplined, so I don't expect them to do that too much. And then in the pass game, obviously, you got Cam Jordan. Now, Cam Jordan and what's his name? Marcus Davenport. Davenport's an athlete. Cam Jordan's not the athlete Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith are on the edge. And so, especially there in the even front, they're not built like that. I really do think that play action boot game could do pretty well against them if we get the run game going. Because if we don't get the run game going, Malcolm Jenkins, Demario Davis, Anzalone, them, they are not going to get fooled by that. And so we really have to make sure that we're able to get the run game going, because otherwise that play action stuff won't work. And then that leaves us with some drop back passing, and we all know, or we should know, that gets scary with Trubisky. So we'll see. I like the matchup, Allen Robinson versus Lattimore, more than I do against Jair Alexander. And so I still think you can get the ball to him, but that's a disciplined team. And so while everybody's going to talk about the earlier game this year, I don't think the Saints are the same. And so it'd be interesting. Now, and we'd be inside, so that'd be nice. But that also is nice for Seattle. But not Seattle, New Orleans. So Seattle would be the other option. Earlier I would have said I like this, but recently Seattle's defense has woken up. And so obviously Jamal Adams is there. He's doing his thing. But man, and they're not great, but they are playing confident. And I tell you, confidence is a big thing. So, because Russ Wilson versus our defense, that's all day to throw. Their line's not great. So if Khalil Mack brought his A game, we could get pressure. But the way we play and the way Russ plays, that's all day to throw. DK Metcalf would eat up any of our corners. It don't really matter how that would go. And then they got a good run game, which, that would be like most of this. That would be the difference. Is really now they can drop back and pass too, but yeah. So that would be interesting if we had Seattle. I don't know, man. Those receivers are scary. If we don't get pass rush, Russ would eat us alive, and then it would just be up to our offense to stay in a shootout. And I don't know how much I like that. Now, Seattle is very up and down, though. They have shown to be, kind of sporadic. And so I think they could be had. I think out of the three teams, they're the most susceptible to having a bad day and not doing much. But when they're rolling, they're rolling. I think if we really, because what they want to do is run early and then pass. So if we really shut down Chris Carson and eliminate any big play actions in the first quarter, then we could get set up in a situation that might be a little more favorable for us. But again, if they go into let Russ cook mode, he could still eat you up. So that's just scary. I don't really know if we would have an answer for that. But offensively, I think this is the defense that I'd rather face, and so we could kind of stay up with them. But yeah. So overall, what does it look like? It's tough. If Jared Goff was fine, I would say I feel pretty good. I would say I feel pretty good that the Rams would take care of business, and then we would be in the 7th seed. But with Jared Goff potentially being out, the Cardinals aren't world beaters, obviously, but it would be hard for me to see Kyler Murray and the Cardinals lose to a guy who's never played in the NFL. It's possible, but that would just be hard for me to see. And so if the Cardinals win, then you're talking about we have to beat Green Bay. And Green Bay is one of the best teams. So us getting in the playoffs is looking a little slim. Us getting in the playoffs and then advancing would be a tough task. It would be a tough task. Doable, but it would be a tough task. As I said, it's so weird how some of y'all Bears fans act, because at one moment I'm in this big fight about how we need to clean house and we need to fire Pace and the team sucks. Now that we're in a playoff push and I'm like, okay, we've been beating bad teams. Now people are yelling at me about how good the team is, how much talent we got, when I was the one saying that in the first place. I'm telling you, we have talent. That does not mean we're a good team. And so do we have talent that can come together on a Sunday? Yes. Can we do that this Sunday and then continue to do that in the playoffs, especially against Green Bay twice? It's very slim, but I'll be rooting for us. That's what I'll say. So that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.